Hi, I'm Nancy Outlaw with Human Resources, Organizational Learning, and Talent Development. One of the most frequent questions that supervisors who are managing remote teams for the first time ask is, how can I set expectations for my employees when I can't see what they're doing? Well, in a previous video that I did that's on this channel that's called Managing Remote Teams, How to Supervise Employees Working from Home, I mentioned that with the right motivation, employees can produce great results from anywhere. And one of the best ways to nurture that state of mind is to set clear expectations. And you can effectively manage expectations by implementing 3 practices, which I have right here on this sign. The first one is to identify and document your expectations. Next, you want to communicate them. And third, you want to track progress. So let's take a look at all 3 of these. The first one, identifying and documenting. When you're identifying your expectations, think about what's important to you, what your goals and your priorities are, and consider those in a remote environment. So for example, is your employees being accessible really important to you? Or is it more important that they keep you updated on their status? Or is it collaborating well with others? Or is it something else? Once you've identified what's important to you, then document those things. That's really important so you can be really clear on what your expectations and your priorities and your goals are, and so that your employees will be clear on those as well. Also, once you've defined and documented your expectations, it's important that you be able to clearly identify what success is going to look like when meeting those expectations. So think in terms of specifics and examples. So for example, if you want your employees to be accessible, what does that look like? Does that mean they work specific hours? Or does that mean they check in with you daily, weekly? And how do they check in with you? Email, phone, chat? So make sure that you're really specific about that. Also make sure that everybody on your team fully understands what their job responsibilities are. And a really powerful and engaging way to do that is to document in detail each person's job responsibilities and include what their impact is on the organization. And the more specific and clear you can be with your expectations, the better chance your employees are going to have of meeting them in the way that you want them to. Let's take a look at the second step, communicating your expectations, which is right here. So in a virtual environment, there is no such thing as over-communicating. So make sure that you communicate your expectations both in writing and verbally to all of your employees. And the leadership experts recommend that you communicate your expectations around several topics, which I'm going to share with you right here. And the first one is meetings. So it's really best to hold weekly meetings with your team and also weekly individual meetings with your employees if that's possible, because that gives them a set and consistent time when they know they're going to be able to talk to their colleagues and share ideas, and also when they're going to be able to meet with you one-on-one and have your undivided attention. Also, in a remote environment, when you're meeting, especially in video meetings, make sure that you're setting some ground rules around things that come up in remote environments, like distractions, interruptions, and background noise, and make sure everybody's clear on how to handle those types of things. Another area that you want to communicate expectations around is work hours. Now, in a remote environment, work hours might be a little bit more flexible, and that might be fine with you, but it is also okay as the leader to set some consistent work hours that everybody is expected to be available. Also, response times. How quickly do you want people to respond to messages? So make sure that people know exactly what that turnaround time looks like. You know, is it 24 hours? Is it 48 hours? Is it less than that? Whatever it is, make sure that you're clear. Also, frequency of communication. How often do you want to hear from your folks? Should they be checking in with you? What do you want them to update you on? Experts recommend that you always ask 3 questions in those types of update meetings. First, what are you currently working on? Second, what challenges are you facing? And third, how can I support you? Another area that you want to make sure that you communicate expectations around is goals and progress. Now, your team may have very specific goals that they're held accountable for meeting in a certain amount of time. And if that's the case, one thing that you can do is post those goals and the team's progress in a place where everybody is able to view those. That really helps your team members stay accountable, and it's also great data to have that to revisit in meetings so that everybody can view their progress and they can share ideas on meeting those goals. And finally, don't forget relationships with other employees. So make sure you're setting some expectations with your employees on how they will interact with each other and also support each other. And make sure you're encouraging some personal connections with folks so that they can form bonds and build rapport. Not only is that great for them, but it also helps form a really cohesive team that's going to work even better together than they already are. The third step is to track progress. So that's going to look very different depending on what your role is, what your team's goals are. So it may involve metrics and it may not. So it's really up to you to decide whether or not metrics are part of tracking progress. But in a remote environment, you may want to measure an employee's performance and results over the number of hours that they're working daily or weekly. So for example, you might want to track an employee's performance on performing or completing a task in a specific amount of time. Or you might want to track your team's progress in how many important goals that they met in a week. Or you can have your employees track their own progress, which is a great way also to ensure accountability. So those are the 3 steps. And setting clear and realistic expectations really helps your team be engaged, productive, and successful, even when they're working in different locations.